Okay, welcome everyone. This is Energy Empire Part 2 Strategy, Tips and Tricks How to be better at this game. So, first of all, you need to remember that the number of actions in this game is almost equal for every player. So, when you're making an action, you would want to get as many points in every single action that you make. First of all, let's have a look at the work actions. So that's when you place your meeples on the board. So acquiring resources like science, steel, oil, and others, they on themselves, they don't give you any victory points at all. Resources are worthless in this game. However, if you buy a building, they will give you immediately victory points. Not well at the end of the game, but the building itself is giving you victory points. So if you compare two different actions, like going to get a resource or going to buy a building, the building is definitely more valuable. You would argue, yes, but you need resources to buy buildings. So that's a valid point. However, you can get resources not just from the base locations, you can also get resources from the buildings themselves. So it means that during the game, your buildings should be main resource producing source and not the base locations. You should avoid this as much as possible. Then the next question, which particular buildings you would want to buy in this case? So have a look at your nation card. They usually tell you which resources you will need most. So with the France, it needs science. So you probably would want to have buildings that are producing science. And generally speaking, green location is more heavily tailored to science resources, the buildings themselves and the main base locations. The Great Britain, for example, is requiring steel to progress on United Nations. So it is more focused on this location. And in that case, with the Great Britain, you would want to buy more brown buildings. Some countries are focused on plastic. Plastic is usually either yellow or brown. In addition to buying buildings, there is also another useful location, which is getting you die. So this location will give you a die which will get you 2 victory points at the end, but also it will allow you to get more energy. So you would want to get all 5 and as soon as possible. So since we touched base on dice, let's have a look at what dice are available. So in the game you have 5 different types. In the efficiency order, they are like that. The weakest one are green and blue. The first one you would want to get is blue. The reason because it's a clean die. It will not give you any pollution during the game. Yes, you get one when you buy it, but that's it. It will help you reduce the number of pollutions if you're rolling multiple dice and some of them are dirty. The next most valuable is the black one because it's the cheapest. So you need to pay just 1 steel to get 1 die. Brown ones, they should only be used as an emergency in case if you don't have any energy and you don't have any, if you don't have any other die, or you just have 1 or 2. And once you've got at least these 2, then you can introduce others. So you have an option either nuclear. Generally speaking, good die. If you have resources, go for it. But since it's requiring steel and science, it's a little bit too expensive. But if you have resources, definitely go for it. Once you have a number of die, and more of them are dirty dice, you would want to introduce the green one, not for the energy itself, but to offset the pollution. So in case if you have a higher chance to roll a high number on these 2 die, and not to get any pollution than if you were to roll only one clean die. So at the beginning, get the blue one first, then probably one black, and then you can add either more blacks or yellow or green as you like. Then the other action that you can do is generate. So don't get confused. Generate, that's when you get your meeples back, but should not be considered as a wasted action. So it still takes you one turn to do that, and you can still get victory points when doing that. Remember, if you have 2 tokens left, either energy or meeples, you can exchange them for one of the achievements, and it will give you up to 5 victory points at the end of the game. So you should always consider generate phase as a chance to get 5 victory points, so take it. Now, the other things on this board, in my view, are much less important. For example, being able to have a look at the next global impact card is useful. You probably can clean up the environment if you know what's coming somewhere in the middle of the game, but normally you don't have much time to react to that. Taking an extra meeple is quite costly as well, so yes, it does allow you to perform one additional action, but it also gives you pollution, takes resources, money. So overall, I don't see it as a valuable action. You sometimes can get extra meeples from buildings. This action is probably the only one in the middle row that is extremely valuable, because this action on its own gives you 2 victory points. So remember, when you're doing action, you want to get victory points for the action itself, whilst this doesn't give you any victory points, this one allows you to remove 2 tokens from your environment, and it is at least 2 victory points extra at the end of the game for the clean environment, but potentially it can give you 1 more victory point if a global impact card that is activated next will target that environment that you're cleaning. So on average, this spot will give you like 3, maybe 4 victory points. So this is still useful. This is not. This blocks one of your environment. You can have it in the beginning of the game if you don't have any dice, but during the mid and end game, not a really good option. This one again, last reserve. This one, this or this, they don't give you much at all. So they give you some resources or exchange, but these actions don't give you any victory points. So you should ideally make your actions as buying building actions and get resources from the buildings that you have. Last thing, my personal opinion on this game. I believe that it is fairly balanced, but not perfectly balanced. The reason why is that in this game you have to play with cubes. You have to buy them. And this is pretty much the only space where you can do that. And if you compare 3 different players, one heavily focused on the green section, another one on brown or yellow, the player who focuses on the brown section has a benefit, because that player, when he goes to buy a die, he will be able to activate brown buildings that he bought. But other players who are focusing on yellow buildings, for example, and go to get a die, they will not be able to activate this. So this is a disadvantage. It does balance a little bit out by the fact that these buildings, they usually are not producing much pollution. They sometimes give you raw victory points. These buildings, on the other hand, they often provide you opportunity to do a cleanup. Also, they give you science. So from this perspective, brown is a little bit in a big advantage. Now, a player who focuses on green buildings has an advantage of being able to clean up his environment. Green buildings generally have um, more options to do a cleanup, and also they produce science that can be used for a cleanup action. Benefit of the yellow buildings is that they usually they often provide you either money or victory points. But the problem is you cannot activate many buildings because you don't have a die, and to get a die you need to go there again. You need to combine two areas anyway. So what I found the best strategy, for me personally at least, is to use these two locations. This just a little bit, so you buy one or two buildings from the brown area, so that each time you go to get a die, you can activate one or two buildings, preferably if the building is providing you steel, for example this one. So in this case, you can, first action you do, you go there, you buy a building, and then going forward, each time you go get a die, you pay one steel to buy a die, and then you can activate the buildings that you bought previously to get your steel back. So this way you will be getting a die each round, and also you will be getting your steel back, with which you will be able to buy one of the two dice. And then the other thing that I like to add is the green section. Then I just go to the green area and keep buying buildings and activating them to get bonuses from them. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, please comment. Your comments are useful for me to understand what is useful for you. And have a good day.